difficulties going on with the stream, so just hang with us for a second. Probably 1-2 minutes, and I'll be right back. Chat pop up, back up. What's up, guys? Sorry. All right, y'all. Sorry about that. I meant to have Eric Nylund on the Google Hangout with us, but for some reason, I mean, you guys remember I did the dual narration with Andrea Parsnew, and it was great. It went fine, and it was relatively easy back then. I don't know why I couldn't figure it out this time. My bad, you guys. But Eric is going to be joining us on Twitch. Anyone who prefers Twitch, if you're watching on YouTube now, you can go back to Twitch if you want to. Anyone on YouTube, hang out there if you want, I guess. Eric is going to be joining us on Twitch in just a moment. But I am going to be reading... Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I am going to be reading from Hero of Thera today. He's going to be Eric's going to be directing me for the characters. So I'm going to be giving you little samples of the actual book. And I'm excited because he's got such a great writing style. I love just concise, evocative. That's what we need, authors like this. More authors like this in Lit RPG, for sure. And the characters, lots of flavor. We got a Thor type. We got a Gimli type. What's up, Buchamas? How's it going? I'm really sorry, guys. I'm really disappointed because we were just on the Google Hangout and we were having a good time. And we were like, oh shit, the show is about to start. And I went back to try and start it up with Google Hangouts on air, and it was just, I couldn't figure it out. I'm a tech idiot, so that's part of it, I guess. But there was, I mean, I would have thought on the YouTube stream there would just be some button you hit that's like, oh, you want to do this on Google Hangouts on air? The image of the book, I didn't even get. Oh no, I do have it. Hee. There's that at least. Wow, and I had the. I'm all over the place today. I didn't even get my water. It's right outside. So I'm a mess, as always. I think you guys kind of figured I'd be that way. You know me by now. If you don't know me by now. There's Mr. Eric Nylund in the chat. Say hi, everybody. Not Island. Well, no, wait. You guys just say hi. Just do whatever you want to do. Thanks for showing up, everyone who's watching. Thanks for putting up with my tech fumbling. But we have a good show coming for you. I did get the water. All right? I did it. I got it. I got my big, stupid pink cup. I'm going to make the cover just a little bit smaller. Get it out of my face just a little bit. Whoa, not that much. No, that was barely anything. Let's go to 34. There we go. That's better. So, Eric and I already got started a little bit before the stream and discovered that my Scottish is worse than I even thought, which is quite a thing. But I think we have decided on going with I think we decided to go with Connor Knight from Dead of Night to play as our protagonist here, Hector Savage, which I'm excited for because I haven't done any lit RPG first person with Connor yet. Actually, I think I think that Dead of Night, I think that the Ghosts of Magic series is the only series that I've narrated first person as Connor. So I'm excited to do it again because it's one of my favorite voices to do. And yeah, so we're going to run through some scenes that Eric wants me to run through. And just to give you some flavors of the characters. An idea of what the characters are going to sound like. And he's going to direct me. He's going to say, no, that sucks. Yes, keep going. Whatever needs to be done in the moment. So, how many characters we got? And I'm not actually going to be recording the audiobook here. This is going to be all practice because I haven't actually read this far into the book, as far as we've gone, and I want to make sure that when I do record it, it's nice and polished, and I'm practiced, and I know exactly what I'm doing. Also, the stream kind of had to come together in this way, in kind of the normal way, so I wasn't prepared. I didn't have my actual file open, so we're doing the best we can, guys. We're doing the best we can. So, all right, so we got Hector Savage, our main character. We got Morgan. We got Pendrick Ragnvald. We've got Elmac. We've got Colonel Delacroix. We've got Mr. Null, the Game Master of Thera. William the Bloody Savage. Lordran Hiltmeyer. Duke Opinicus. Sister Rada Borovka. Borovka? Borovka. Borovkova. There is like a 10-second lag, Eric. I don't know if there's I don't know how much of a difference there is between Twitch and YouTube, but yeah, there's a little bit of a lag. But Eric, whenever you tell me what the scene is, just give me the opening sentence. And that way I can just throw that into my search. And that'll take me right where we want to go. Null's Entrance, Chapter 2. I wish I could show you the effects I'm going to use for him at first. Okay, so we're starting on Chapter 2 of Hero of Thera. By the way, since I'm here, since I'm on Twitch anyway, if you get on Twitch, if you tell me in the chat that you want a free audiobook, I'm willing to give 5 of them away today. And let's just say anything lit RPG. Feedback Loop is out. Steampunk is Dead is out. High Fantasy is out. Those 3 are in the Feedback Loop series. If you want any of those books 2 and 3 just came out, so you can request one of those, or anything else I have lit RPG. I have Delvers LLC. Just Buchamas wants a free book. Delvers LLC, Obligations Incurred, just got turned in last night, so that'll be published in the next 2 weeks or so. We got Sigil Online, Paragons, and all right, we got actual requesters today. Buchamas and Ian want one. And what's my other one? I'm blanking. Oh, we got Secret of the Old Ones by Blaze Corvin as well. Other Life Dreams, of course. Other Life Dreams, Other Life Nightmares, Other Life Awakenings, those are all available. So make sure to tell me what you want, and I'll get it to you. All right, Chapter 2, hero of Thera. You guys are going to get to meet Mr. Null. Chapter 2. The demon was difficult to see because it was pitch black against a backdrop of shadows. Yet, the longer I stared, the more the darkness popped from the flat dimension, taking on form and substance. Its tail elongated with a scorpion stinger. The blank face widened with a Cheshire... Okay, so, Cheshire. If you're British, I think Americans say Cheshire just to piss off British people. How should I say it in this context? I'm going to say Cheshire just to piss off any British people who may be watching. The blank face widened with a Cheshire cat's grin. The body stretched and bat wings filled the cell, corner to corner. I stumbled away, back pressed against bars, trying to push farther away to no avail. The thing watched me with compound insect eyes. It then experimentally scraped talons over the steel toilet, producing sparks and a screech like rusty nails on a shattered blackboard.
Oh dear, I have the wrong body. My apologies.
The darkness melted into flat shadow, then blossomed into 1,000 midnight black snakes that spilled into the cell, expanding and curling. Fanged mouths opened and snapped at the air. I screamed until my voice was a ragged bray.
Sorry,
the 1,000 mouths hissed.
Not quite right. A moment, please.
I stopped screaming, not because I had a grasp on reality now, but because I'd given up on it. The 1,000 snakes vanished. In their place stood a man in a tuxedo.
Ah, finally, a proper manifestation,
he said with a precise German accent. He straightened his bow tie. His black hair was wavy, his face rugged, yet dashing. He could have been the villain from a James Bond movie, fresh from the Baccarat tables. He gestured to his outfit.
Merely an image from your memory, Mr. Savage. Nothing to fear.
He pointed to the cot.
Do you mind?
I shook my head. Actually, every part of my body was shaking. He turned the laptop around, and made a tisk sound.
All things considered, they might have offered you decent equipment.
He glanced at the scant accommodations of my cell.
Barbarians. Not even the makings for a decent martini.
I had regained enough of my wits to realize I was still trying to back up, pressing uselessly against the bars. I stopped and straightened. The human mind has a talent for trying to make sense of things that are essentially nonsensical. My brain was no exception, and it cast about, trying to assemble a logical set of possibilities for... What had he called this? A manifestation? Okay. Possibility 1. The guards had drugged the pizza they'd brought in a few hours ago with a massive dose of LSD. Unlikely, but not impossible. Possibility 2. Facing my imminent execution with no escape options, I'd had a complete mental breakdown. Highly likely. Possibility 3. This thing was real. A ghost? An alien? The devil?
I assure you I am real, the man in the tuxedo said. Not a ghost, nor an alien, and definitely not the devil. What I am, however, is an agent for an organization who sees great potential in you.
My legs gave way, and I grabbed the bars to steady myself. At some earlier point, my bladder had emptied. The front of my orange jumpsuit had a patch of seeping discoloration.
"Whoa,"
I said. At least I was making consonant sounds, which was an improvement over the whimpering vowel noises I'd been making up to then. I tried again. "What is this?"
"This,"
the man waved about,
"is your death row cell. In precisely 12 hours, State of California correctional officers will puncture your arm with an intravenous line and... I held up a hand. I know all that. I meant, what are you? He stood, stepped forward, and took my hand. I am Technical Field Supervisor 13, Abyssal Management Corp. At your service. He clicked his heels together. You may call me by my traditional name, Nefarious. Or if you like, its contemporary equivalent, Mr. Null. I still wasn't buying this was anything but a stroke in progress. Yet the same part of my mind that had instinctively backed me away from this thing knew, whatever this was, it was dangerous. Wait, you said abyssal, as in hell? Mr. Null rolled his eyes. No, hell is the domain of the fallen lords. We are another organization. I see, I said, not seeing anything at all. I tried to get my hand back from his grasp. It might as well have been welded there. He was so strong. I was wondering, Mr. Savage, if you might be interested in hearing a simple business proposition. Alarm bells. I suddenly remembered all those fairy tales where the devil offers a down-on-his-luck guy a deal that's too good to be true. The guy usually parts with his immortal soul and then dies in a particularly gruesome way. I'm listening. Mr. Null released my hand. It is natural to be skeptical, but the truth is that no matter what you believe this is, or what you believe I am, you will still die tonight. Your soul is condemned, unless we make a deal. I didn't think I liked his opening sales pitch, and I knew I didn't like this Mr. Null. He was just telling me what I already knew. I was screwed. But he was rubbing my nose in it. But he was rubbing my nose in it. I walked to the sink, braced, and opened the faucet. Nothing came out. Mr. Null snapped his fingers and water gushed. I cupped my hand, sipped, and then splashed my face. I gazed into the stainless steel mirror, half expecting not to see Mr. Null in the reflection. He was. I suppose you're going to tell me this is a deal I can't refuse? All I have to do is sell you my soul and... Wait, did you say my soul was already condemned and going to hell? Again, not hell, he said. Another infernal subdimension. But I suppose it's all the same to you. Yes, you are quite damned. The blood drained from my face. I gripped the sink to keep from slipping to the floor. But, I whispered, I don't deserve to go to hell. On the contrary, Mr. Savage. You are guilty of mass murder and conspiracy to commit murder and 87 other Class A type felonies under the Homeland Security Act. I didn't do any of that. And what does that have to do with anything? He asked. You were found guilty by your peers. There are legal consequences. I did not make up those rules. I do not even like rules, but I am compelled, as are you, to follow them, no matter how unfair or unpleasant. He licked his lips with a black tongue. Images of lakes of fire and blazing pitch, naked bodies impaled on spikes, and demons lashing barbed whips filled my imagination. Cheer up! Mr. Null suddenly stood behind me and set a hand on my shoulder. Okay, so there's the effects. I don't know how many times he changes bodies, but I'm thinking that the only times I'm going to be using the effects are for that first demon form and then the snakes. So if he does more of that, then you'll get more effects. Unless you want more effects on him right here, I'll add something subtle if you think it needs it. Cheer up! We know you are innocent. A so-called good person. Good person. It is a major point in your favor. I shook my head, not understanding. Our normal recruits are killers, arsonists, conmen, not precisely the best qualified for a position that requires trust. You do see the dilemma, don't you? He gave my shoulder a squeeze, and his needle-sharp nails bit through the jumpsuit and into my skin. Mr. Null then vanished, back to sitting on the cot. A shiver and goose-flesh spread from where he'd touched me. What really stood out on your resume, however, was this. Mr. Null tapped the laptop. Skills like yours are in demand these days. Did he have the right guy? I had a degree in computer science and physics, sure, but what did that have to do with his line of work? May I offer a suggestion, Mr. Null said, to facilitate your understanding? I nodded. Allow me to show you what we had in mind. I'm positive you'll be intrigued. Show me hell, huh? What if I don't like what I see? What's the return trip going to cost? I appreciate the caution. It indicates intelligence. He smiled and rubbed his hands together. Curls of smoke appeared. I can guarantee your safety. At any point during the interview, ask to be returned. He looked despairingly about the tiny cell. At any point during the interview, ask to be returned. He looked despairingly about the tiny cell. And you will be. I'd heard that people experiencing schizophrenic breaks had internally consistent logic to their crazy. You could never prove the poor guy wasn't an alien or a time traveler or the reincarnation of Lizzie Borden. Bonkers, yes, but with airtight stories. Just like I couldn't prove Mr. Null wasn't a real demon, that he hadn't stopped time, and he wasn't about to offer me a deal I couldn't refuse. Until, that is, I woke up being strapped to the execution table. Still, despite the insanity of this situation, I was curious. What if this was real? Could I afford to turn down any legit offer at this point? Okay. Show me. Wunderbar! Mr. Null reappeared by my side. I didn't look that up, by the way. Is that, like, wonderful in German? Wunderbar! He snapped his fingers once more, and a shimmering hole appeared in the wall. He waved toward it like a game show host might reveal what was behind curtain number 1. I wanted to tilt my head to get a better look, but found I was paralyzed. And then something slipped inside my body, and I was free. Only I stood a pace away from the sink outside my body. A standard spiritual projection, he explained. No damage will result, and you are easily reinserted into your corporeal form. I reached out to touch my body, and my hand passed through. If I hadn't gotten all that screaming done earlier, I might have started now. Would Mr. Null be inclined to put me back inside my body if I didn't play ball with him? One thing I'd learned from all those fairy tales about dealing with the devil was that you couldn't win, or at least you had to be a very clever monkey to outsmart the devil. I wasn't sure I qualified. Please, stop worrying, Mr. Null told me. He nodded toward the opening in the wall, and my spirit drifted closer. You were born for this. On the other side, golden sunlight dazzled me. After blinking a few times, I saw we stood in a circular room, 10 paces across. Tall, arched windows showed a magnificent cloudscape beyond, and in the distance, snow-capped mountains. 3 moons, one gray, one orange, and a silver disk, hung in the sky like coins on blue silk. In the center of this chamber hovered crystal keyboards with the standard QWERTY layout. Massive display screens hung in the air, too. Menus and numbers and windows winked and slithered over their surfaces. It was the coolest computer rig I'd ever seen. An unbidden thought drifted to the surface of my conscious mind. Cool enough to sell your soul for? As if Mr. Null had heard my thought, he said, It is not your soul so much. It is not your soul so much we require, Mr. Savage. As I said, we are more interested in your skills. As a gamer.
I think you guys know where this is going. This is the right place, Harmon. I'm sorry for all the stupid technical difficulties. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I'm just bad at technology. I need to buy a gnome. How much are those? I think I'm making enough money that I can afford one now. Buy a gnome, put him to work as my producer, make sure things get done right. Okay. Elmac and Colonel Delacroix, Chapter 22. Start with line, besides, Elmac was here. Okay, so, I think as most of you know, I'm awful with the Scottish accent. And yes, don't forget to ask for audiobooks, guys. Free audiobooks. There's 2 claimed so far, as I saw. 2 far. I need a script, or else I'm just completely retarded when I speak. 2 audiobooks given away so far, 3 left. 1, 2, 3. So, yeah, I'm doing a Scottish Dwarf, and was her name Galadriel? The dwarf sprawled on the padded bench opposite Colonel Delacroix. He took a nip from a rusty hip flask. He squinted at me, frowned, then magnanimously offered me the flask. I got in and sat next to him. No thanks.
Your funeral, he mumbled and took the
Okay, this word, I know I mispronounced this in Delvers. Proffered, he mumbled and took the proffered sip.
Practically smell that Silvercrest ale still boiling in your blood, lad. Need a drop of poison to put things right.
Delacroix crossed her legs, then her arms, then uncrossed her arms and knocked on the carriage wall.
Go!
The coach jerked forward.
Master Elmac,
she said.
Is it your intention to be drunk when the Duke interviews you?
Interview? Is that what we be calling it now? He sloshed his flask. I only wish I could get drunk. This'll barely knock the sand out of my eyes. This'll barely knock the sand out of me eyes.
I'm taking lessons, guys. Before I get started on this book. Her face was a mask, but her eyes filled with contempt. Elmac looked to me.
Have you been properly introduced?
I shook my head.
Then allow me. Hector St. Savage from the domicile of the Sleeping Dragon, pugilist without equal. Please meet Dame Delacroix of the Royal Order of the Eternal Rose. High-class thug. High-class thug and colonel of the Duke's secret police. The Duke's.
The Cockney is bleeding in. It's because of, like, the H's. The H's really do that to me.
And colonel of the Duke's secret police.
There was a steely silence as Elmac and Delacroix stared at one another. Then she said with practiced ease,
Why, Elmac, His Grace has no secret police. Some might call it treason to even suggest such a thing.
Aye, Elmac replied.
You know who'd be suggesting that? The secret police. Arguing with the police. What a great idea. Because that always got you somewhere. I tried to change the subject. What's this about an interview, then? Colonel Delacroix gazed out the window, scanning the sky. Oh, this is Elmac. Has to be about yesterday's wee bit of Has to be about yesterday's wee bit of adventure. Wee bit of adventure. Ugh. Elmac tapped the side of his considerable nose. And the less said here, the better. Has the stink of palace politics in it. Has the stink of palace politics to it. He spat on the floor between Delacroix's polished boots. She didn't bat an eye his way, but a diamond in one of her knuckle rings glimmered crimson. I had a feeling if Elmac kept provoking her, she might drop a point-blank fireball and make this entire trip moot. I smiled at Elmac, actually more me gritting my teeth. Maybe we should mind our manners, Elmac, until at least we know what the Duke wants. He scoffed, but kept his trap shut. Since useful conversation wasn't happening, I watched the scenery. This high-hill neighborhood had 4-story Victorian row houses that could have been lifted from Haight Ashbury. Haight? Haight? Okay, I'm not going to look it up because I'm actually... So this is a Mobi file that's not actually from... It's not like the DRM one that you would get for the Kindle. So whenever I leave the book, I completely lose my place. So I'm going to say Haight Ashbury. Haight. I'm going to leave it at Haight. We'll just leave it there. And then when I actually record, I'll make sure it's right. Each had been painted a different color. Sky blue with plasterwork in the shapes of mermaids, pink with angel wing scrollwork, and one in flat black with luminescent stars and moons. What would it cost to get set up in one of those? More than the silver I had in my inventory, that's for sure. Merchants and soldiers plodded along the sidewalk. Pedestrians in the cobblestone street scampered out of the way before the Clydesdales. There was an ogre street sweeper, a group of elven ladies with antebellum hoopskirts and lace parasols, a cart loaded with bricks and gnome masons, on break, holding steaming mugs, hobbit children's shoe shines, even a pixie that flitted by with a tiny messenger bag and feathered cap. Haight, okay. I was giving the word the benefit of the doubt. I think that... How many races coexisted here? On my Earth, we had one dominant species with a handful of color variations, and we couldn't get along for more than a few days without hate speech and race riots. How did the people of Thera do it? Maybe because of all the portals to other worlds. With a perpetual influx of strangers, racial tolerance must be a necessity. Add this mystery to my list of questions waiting for answers. How could I forget my list of questions? Sitting next to me was one slightly tipsy and angry dwarf who had nothing better to do than cough up answers. I'd avoid the topic of Theran politics, considering the circumstances and present company, and start with an easy question. Like, did advanced technologies work in this world? So, I said to Elmac, pretending to stretch and relax, does everything brought over from other worlds work in Thera? Elmac waved my query aside as if it were an annoying mosquito. Are there guns here? I pressed. Electricity? Indoor plumbing? He closed his eyes and muttered, Yes and no. And no. And thank all the gods. Yes. What's yes and no mean? Guns, Elmac replied, slouching as if about to nap. They be everywhere. Half the people from other worlds bring their bleeding firearms. Firearms. Ugh. Guys. It's rough. Then why are the city guard armed with swords and bows? Elmac pretended now to be asleep.
Firearms cannot operate in Thera,
Colonel Delacroix said, finally looking my way.
Gunpowder, explosives, this entire subdomain of alchemy without magical influence does not combust in our realm. Nor can complex non-natural polymers exist for more than a few weeks without degrading. Likewise, nuclear reactions do not occur, although, she smiled, I do not expect a pugilistic barbarian to understand such concepts.
No, I understand.
Really?
Forces like gravity obviously work, I told her. But what you're saying is that from universe to universe, the rules governing the strong and weak nuclear forces, and possibly even the electromagnetic force, all slightly differ. So magic operates in Thera, but other things don't, and I guess the corollary to that is that there's no magic in my world, but guns and bombs work just fine. Her condescending smile vanished, and a glacial ice gaze locked onto me. Behind that gaze, she was probably trying to fathom how a low-level martial artist was debating grand unification theories, especially one who looked like he had a 0 intellect stat. I may have overplayed my hand a bit. That's better. I kicked Elmac, angry at him for not answering my question in the first place. Hey! Still waiting for an explanation to that yes and no comment about guns, Elmac grunted.
Parts of him work. Picked up a Winchester double-barreled shotgun last month. Made a fine crossbow stock. Nice trigger, too.
I can't even... I'm concentrate. It's either I have to concentrate on the accent or the voice. For Scottish for me. That's what happens when you're not good at an accent, is you can't concentrate on both. If you're good at an accent, then it's like you can use that accent no matter what voice you're using. It just kind of clicks. But more practice. I'm so glad that I actually have more a major character though to have the excuse to really polish my Scottish accent. So thank you, Eric, for putting me through this.
So there's no combination of gunpowder formulas that... Stop! Elmac held up his hands.
I'm sick of every idiot that stumbles into Thera, who's read those amber books, rejiggering gunpowder mixes, thinking they'll overthrow the government, become emperor. Ugh. All by adding foot powder or radium or ground up wands to the mix to make 'em burn right. It was cute the first dozen times, but now I want the Duke to just preemptively lock up these smart Alecs for sedition and stupidity and be done with them.
I was going to point out that Elmac had those very books on his nightstand, but that might not be productive. Was he secretly experimenting with gunpowder formulas that might work in Thera? Colonel Delacroix looked away from us, bored. Aside from the physics explanation, no guns in Thera made practical game sense. If I were the game master of a fantasy world, there was no way I'd let guns or grenades in my campaign. Any first-level player or NPC might shoot up the place and upend the whole purpose of a contest supposed to reward skill, daring, and brains. Okay, let's see. Lots more monologue. I'm going to get to more Colonel Delacroix here. This is one of my guilty pleasures. This majestic British lady voices. Ugh. Okay, right here, it looks like we're meeting Duke Opinicus. Eric, do you want me to move on to a different spot? Or could I keep going right here and develop Copernicus as well? The bloody savage. Let's see.
Okay, that's right. Claude Rains, the Prince in the Green Cloak. Yes to what? Just keep going, so that we meet Duke Opinicus. I give him two choices. He says yes. I guess he's not telling me another place, so yes makes sense. Okay. The president.
Address Duke Opinicus as Your Grace. Do not speak unless he asks you a question. And above all else, do not approach his grace unless he so directs.
The muscles about her jaw tightened.
Do you understand, Outworlder?
I nodded, my voice and confidence lost as I took in the hall beyond the vault door. With all the build-up, I'd been expecting the Duke's audience chamber to be a cathedral-size room with 100 guards and stained glass windows that overlooked all of High Hill and the surrounding countryside. This place, however, was the size of Elmac's Tavern. No windows, but ample light from crystals glowing with blue-white magic set in torch sconces. There was a wide table on the far side about which sat wizards, warriors, and two bald priestesses in sand-colored robes from the Temple of the Three Sisters. Colonel Delacroix moved to the table and took the empty seat next to the man seated in the center. Duke Opinicus was human, with a slender beard on a weak chin. He had a touch of gray, but otherwise was a dead ringer for Claude Rains playing Prince John in the 1938 Adventures of Robin Hood movie. He had that sophisticated, suave, and definitely evil vibe about him. Elmac and I entered. The vault door behind us was shut. I was about to bow in the Duke's direction by way of greeting, when Elmac nudged his metal elbow in my gut and nodded at the corner. Standing there, flanked by guards, was Sir Pendrick Ragnavold, in shackles and manacles. Chapter 23.
By the way, anybody else who wants audiobooks, make sure to say something in the chat here on Twitch. Yeah, you have to go to Twitch to get it. Sorry, guys, and you have to follow. It's just the way things work right now. I know I said that I was going to be on YouTube exclusively today, but if you're just now getting here, the reason that we're not doing that is because I totally screwed up tech-wise. I couldn't figure out how to do Google Hangouts on air in time. So we would have had... I'm so mad because we would have had Eric Nylund on the other end, and we'd be going back and forth, and he'd be directing me like that. And it'd be more fun, but...
My first impulse was to stand by Pendrick, even fight with him if it came to that.
Oh, wait a minute. We're trying something else. Next, maybe the top of Chapter 9, Morgan, male British accent, and an evil priest who we haven't gotten to, but a decent scene with some hackneyed dialogue. Okay. So, Chapter 9. We're starting at My Mouth Dropped. Gnome Shopkeeper. Elmac. Colonel Delacroix. Pendrick. Rada Borovkova, Duke Opinicus. Oh. I'm not seeing the people that you're talking about. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's right, Morgan. Okay. And an evil priest who we haven't gotten to. And who's the evil priest again? What's his name? Is it... No, Lordran is the gnome. No. Okay. Eric, if you can let me know what the priest is supposed to sound like. Okay. My mouth dropped open at the sight of the thing in the portal. It stretched my mind apart like taffy. I found the intestinal fortitude to look away, shut my mouth, and clear my throat. Yeah, I said to the robed figure. We are here to help. Oh, man. What is it that he's seeing? Okay. The priest nodded to the space over our heads. Full Rockatop? He's not in the document, Mang. You missed him. Okay. I'm gonna just try something random.
Of course you are, he said. Representatives of the Lords of the Abyss and Tricksters. The Prince of Leng is coming.
Priest should sound, crazy. Cthulhu cultist, alright.
Yes! Of course you are, he said. Representatives of the Lords of the Abyss and Tricksters. The Prince of Leng is coming. He waved at the thing in the portal. Spawn of the Yellow King. It brings spores to infect not only men, but those damned enchanted trees. He will transform the so-called cathedral woods into a proper festering swamp. He tittered like a balloon releasing its air. We then absorb High Hill. Our blessed zombies will spread to Waycross, Fort Summer, and then all Thera will be consumed. He must have seen my slack-jawed expression, because his smile disappeared into the depths of his cowl. You are here to help, aren't you? I gave him my best innocent expression and held out both hands in supplication. I also squinted at the space above his head. Words came into focus. Full Rockatop. And then Priest, level 7. And finally, Gods of Eld. So he was a player too. At level 7, he seriously outclassed us, as did the thing coming through the portal. Wait, he played for the Gods of Eld? As in the Lovecraftian Elder Gods? I choked back the scream rising through my chest. We're on the job. Here to help. Wait a minute, let me make sure I got him right. Oh wait, he's not in the notes either? Is he? Elmac. Oh, that's right. Okay. Morgan. We're on the job. Here to help, Morgan said, and stepped closer to the priest. Who could ask for a more brilliant starting quest than bringing doom to this world? I froze. Morgan sounded sincere. And kind of nuts. Had he tricked me into helping him get here? Isn't that what tricksters did? Trick people? What if I had to fight him as well? What if I had to fight him as well as this full Rockatop, and the thing they were trying to summon? Morgan, however, held one hand behind his back as he spoke, and made the universal gesture to protect all liars from bad karma. His fingers were crossed. I could have hugged him. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding.
Your timing is impeccable,
Full Rockatop told us.
I require assistance.
He gestured to the diagram on the floor. Its spirals, pentacles, and odd lettering shifted deeper than a mere 2 dimensions. It made me nauseated to stare at it too long.
We need new blood for the magic,
Full Rockatop said.
A few unfortunate, misaligned stars strain the diagram's circuitry. I would use mine, but I am out.
He lifted one arm. His robe sleeve fell away, revealing an incision that had long since bled out. Full Rockatop pointed a desiccated finger at me.
Your body slave will do.
Ah, Morgan said, nodding and taking another step to him. Right. I'll just have him slit his own throat, then.
Marvelous.
Under Full Rockatop's hood, his grin reappeared. Stop fanning around, boy, Morgan told me. Over there. Spill some blood. I nodded, understanding his double meaning. Gladius firmly gripped. I closed on Full Rockatop. Adrenaline blazed through my veins as I tensed. I drew my arm back to strike at the madman. He was faster. His open hand clenched into a crackling fist. I leapt at him, sword point aimed at his throat. Quick stab, primed and ready. Landing a critical hit, or 2, was our only chance at taking out this 7th-level psycho. Lightning flashed from his hand, struck me. Arced to Morgan, too. It felt like concertina wire razor... It felt like concertina razor wire wrapped around... It felt like concertina razor wire wrapped about me, lifted me off my feet, and slammed me to the floor with a thunderclap. Black stars. The floor tilted. The world blurred. I shook my head to clear the cobwebs. My health bar was down to 10%. My arms, legs, and torso were crisscrossed with smoldering cuts. Deep incisions. Blood pumped out in dribbles. Ouch. Morgan lay near me. His health bar hovered with a mere 2 pixels remaining. You were amazing, he muttered, blood bubbling from his lips, before he blasted you out of the air like a clay pigeon. I especially liked how you had my back there. He laughed, or tried to, but instead coughed up more blood. Heal yourself, I whispered, then heal me. We'll try again. I glanced at our enemy. He ignored us. And why shouldn't he? He'd just swatted us like flies. Full Rockatop focused on smearing our blood on the floor with the tip of his staff.
Yes, yes,
he murmured, and then louder.
Yes!
The portal flickered like an old television. Picture there, then not. Static. Then back. And the monster snapped closer, its writhing body filling and pressing against the invisible barrier of the not-quite-open doorway to some hell dimension. I lifted onto my elbows to get a better look at the pattern on the floor. Full Rockatop twisted his staff, turning an inscribed pentacle as if it were a dial. If he could tune in the picture, then maybe it could be tuned out of focus as well. I tried to get to my feet, but the effort made me dizzy. I hung my head, exhausted. I can't. Morgan, I'm sorry. Morgan set his hand on my back. Well, to Plan B, then. What Plan B? Our clan's special abilities. I didn't get it. Maybe the trickster's fake death skill made sense. Use it and poof, Morgan had a chance to make it look like he died while he crawled out of here. But my clan's special ability? Ritual sacrifice? Even if I had wanted to use it, which I didn't, there was no one here for me to sacrifice. Unless... No, I whispered. It's the only way, Morgan said. That sacrifice ability will heal you, buff you to the gills, and give you a chance to pound this wanker flat. By killing you? Well, yeah, there's that. He closed his eyes. But I'm second level. Got a respectable 6%... Got
Got a respectable 6% chance for my fake death ability to work now, and then I'll leg it. It's heroic, isn't it? A very trickster thing to do.
Isn't it, huh? Yeah, I'm being a little too proper here.
Okay, but there's a 94% chance you'll die. I leaned closer, my lips right to his ear. That I'll kill you and send your soul to the abyss, you idiot. He considered this for a few heartbeats. Then, and what do you think happens to our souls when Prince Charming arrives? The monster from beyond had 1,000 slathering mouths pressed up against the portal like it was a pane of glass. A very thin pane, about to crack wide open. "We're buggered," Morgan said, his voice suddenly full of iron.
Okay.
"We're buggered. There's no other way. It's not just for us. There are all those people in High Hill. We don't even know them. Does that matter, Hector?" His words were like a slap in the face. I'd been thinking about myself for so long, my precious indignation at being framed for mass murder, my wallowing in self-pity as I waited for my execution. I'd forgotten what it was like to care about other people. True, I didn't know any of the humans, elves or dwarves in High Hill, but I couldn't let them get turned into fungus-infested undead. And as dorky as it sounded, I couldn't let the breathtaking cathedral woods become a festering swamp either. And last, and most important, I couldn't let this crazy Fulrockatop best me in the game. I had my pride as a gamer to consider, and giving the elder Lovecraftian gods greater sway over creation was something I just couldn't stomach. But the cost... "Morgan, I can't!" I said the words, but nonetheless my hand fumbled and gripped my gladius. "It'll be easy peasy. I'll help you." Morgan lifted his chain shirt, took my hand holding the blade, and drew it over his chest so the tip dimpled just under the sternum. "Don't think about it," he told me. I shook my head, but opened the interface and found my clan's special ability. Morgan gestured in the air, prepping his special ability too. "Please, no, Morgan. Go on 3, he told me. 1, 2, I slid the blade into Morgan. His skin parted without resistance. Morgan's pulse reverberated through the grip of my gladius. The ritual sacrifice icon glowed neon red and winked like a heartbeat. Tears of pain glistened in Morgan's eyes. He nodded. "You got this, mate." In a trance, I tapped the icon.
All right, so we're not going to spoil any more of that part. All right, so we got Morgan. I think I got his voice all right. What do you think, Eric? And what's the next scene? Should I go back to where I was before? I think that was like chapter 23, where we meet what's his name? Duke Opinicus. What big hands. I can't stop thinking about that now. Thanks, Harmon. So next scene, what do we got? Light fight scene. What's going on?
And I say, hey, 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 hey.
That's not showing up. All right, chapter 31. There it is. I asked Colonel... Okay. "What's going on?" I asked Colonel Delacroix. She gingerly dismounted her gray mare, ignored me, and raised her arms to the sun. Her horse, Butterbell, as well as Elmax and Morgana's steeds, ran off into the forest. Bellringer, with Pendrick, stood their ground. Morgana whispered to me,
"Did we miss something?"
A sudden premonition of danger. I spun, but there was nothing behind me. Only the vast canyon and the portal. The demon guardian that had been there, however, was gone. Morgana followed my gaze.
"Bloody hell," she murmured. "Literally, I think. Where'd it go?"
"Teleported," Delacroix replied in a Sometimes the British goes back and forth in the narration. Delacroix replied in a trance-like voice. "It could be any..." There was an explosion and thunderous shockwave. For a second, I thought I was in Afghanistan taking mortar fire. I crouched, hands over my head, and searched for cover. The decades of training my spirit warrior character had then took over. My hands rose into a defensive pose. I searched for movement and fired off the perfect motion buff. Otherwise, I would have never been ready for what happened next. A ball of flame churned over the forest. In the center of the explosion was a distortion of flapping bat wings and taloned hands that unfolded, grew, and emerged from the hole in the sky. The Hellfire Demon dove at us. Superheated air blasted me, and for a heartbeat I gazed into flat amphibian features and solid red eyes that held not a trace of its former humanity. My health bar smoldered and popped a few pixels. Bellringer reared and flailed hooves. Hooves or hooves? I always forget these. Some words are tricky. Apparently, even a demon didn't want to tangle with the warhorse. It twisted mid-dive, seeming to defy the laws of physics, veered from Bellringer, and crashed atop Elmac. The dwarf sank his axe in the demon's shoulder. Flaming naphtha blood splashed... Flaming naphtha blood splashed over Elmac, and he... Flaming naphtha blood splashed over Elmac, and he roared in pain. The demon ignored the axe wound and clamped talons about Elmac and braced as if to leap back into the air. I didn't give it a second thought. I jumped on its back. My health bar ignited in flames and rapidly dropped. My spirit armor protected me a little. Otherwise, I probably would have gone up in a flash. The pain was still terrific as the skin on my hands and face melted. I didn't care. If this thing got airborne with Elmac, no matter how great a warrior he was, he'd be toast. I grabbed a wing, pulled the delicate structure to full extension, and twisted with all my might. Bones snapped. As the monster vaulted into the air, the Hellfire Demon, me, and Elmac flew for a fraction of an instant, then together tumbled down the canyon slope. Over and over and over. Smashed against jagged outcroppings. Crashed dry manzanita brush to splinters. Crashed it to splinters. Crashed dry manzanita brush to splinters. Steamrolled by 1,000 pounds of smoldering demon flesh. And then with a teeth-cracking thud, we hit the bottom of the ravine. I struggled out from under the dog pile, got dizzily to my feet, and spat out teeth and blood. My vision swam. Before I passed out, I double-tapped my spiritual regeneration. The world came into sharp focus, as did half my health bar. Kind of. Because what I saw made me question if I had passed out and was hallucinating. Colonel Delacroix jumped down after us. Instead of plummeting through the air, however, she drifted as light as a dandelion seed, hands moving, chanting, spell energies coalescing about her in a web of solar radiance. It was Pendrick, though, that really made me question if I was awake or not. He and Bellringer galloped off the edge of the canyon wall,
and somehow by extraordinary riding skill or luck, they together ran down a 60-degree slope to meet us without a single stumble, picking up speed until knight and steed thundered down upon the Hellfire Demon, who was just sitting up, shaking his head to clear the concussion. Pendrick lowered the tip of his lance and struck the monster. The lance shattered. Its tip, however, impaled the demon's chest. The tremendous momentum knocked the monster over 3 times, head over heels, before it skidded to a stop face first in the dirt. Bellringer stumbled, legs seemingly tangled for a moment, but it recovered. Pendrick wrenched back in the saddle, his shoulders stuck at an unnatural angle. His arm dangled limp. I ran to Elmac, who was now exposed on the canyon floor. He was plastered into the earth, smoldering and bleeding. The old dwarf groggily rolled onto his side and propped himself on one elbow. "Can you stand?"
"Aye, not so much,"
he grunted as he held out his metal arm for me to take.
"But help me up. I think I can fight. I think I can fight."
Okay. Try the hangover scene, chapter 21. Is this a break? Is this really a break? Or is it more Scottish? Is this the beginning of the... You want me to start at the beginning of the chapter? By the way, guys, I don't know. I think I've only given out two audiobooks today. So, you should still be requesting if you want some. Easy peasy. Oh, wait. I thought you were giving me a reference for where to start. Okay, I guess I'm just starting at the beginning of chapter 1. Chapter 21. There we go. Another request. Thank you. I floated to consciousness. I floated to consciousness, lured by the odor of bacon that filled my nostrils and made my mouth water. I opened my eyes. I was in bed. I was in a bed. Next to me on a pillow sat a cast-iron plate loaded with a half-pig's worth of crisp bacon. There were also scrambled eggs with cheddar cheese, roasted potatoes, and caramelized onions. On the side was a stack of sourdough toast, a pot of strawberry preserves, apple wedges, a flagon of orange juice, a pot of steaming coffee, and on a separate tiny silver tray, 3 after-meal mints. All well and good. There was, however, a price to be paid for being awake. Someone was hammering a spike into my eye socket, and it protruded out of the back of my skull. At least that's what it felt like. I fumbled about my face, 6 fingers gently probing, to reassure myself that there was no trepanning? What? What does that mean? I forgot to start up the chat up here on my iPad. Later, not right now. Twitch. Trepanning. I don't know what that means. Trepanning. To reassure myself that there was no trepanning object. Is this something that I should know that's like gaming? Tree panning. So then, not attempted murder. Just the mother of all hangovers. My neurons started to reboot, each one a voice in a choir of an impending migraine, and with each came a micro-flash from last night's party. Me guzzling ale, dancing, laughing, and singing an X-rated dwarven limerick. The lass led me upstairs to the loft. I found her beard fine and downy soft. Trepanation, making a hole in one's head, Releases the evil spirits. A real thing. Okay, cool. Boo Thomas wants this one. Okay, I'll put you... I mean, I can put you on the waiting list for free audiobooks of this, if you want. Ugh. I rubbed my eyes. My health bar came into focus, down a few pixels and slightly blurred. Let me try this song. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm just kidding. I hit spiritual regeneration. It made the headache subside. A bit. I lay in a down feather bed, a little short for my 5'5" frame. The room also had a nightstand and chest. The ceiling was a tad low. There were 3 open doors that led to a parlor, a small library, and what I hoped was the bathroom. There was a fireplace and a granite hearth, but no fire. Sunlight sliced through the parted curtains. Elmac had unceremoniously dropped me here last night, complaining about not being ready for house guests, the staff having the night off, and other mutterings that I hadn't paid attention to, as I was more concerned with how fast the room had been spinning. So this was his house. Excuse me. That explained the supersized dwarven breakfast and the truncated bed. And before that, yes, more was coming back. Regrettably. There'd been a rousing celebration at the Bloody Rooster where Pendrick and I had regaled Elmac with the tale of the far-field barbarians and the wizards of the Black Hand, and how he had heroically ended their decade-long cursed battle. Pendrick kicked me under the table as I started to tell about the Valkyries. He quickly changed the subject by telling Elmac about all the intact kegs of ale in his long-lost family brewery. During this performance, worthy of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, I'd had 4 pints. Let me clarify. A dwarven pint is more like a liter. I'd started with a malt called Bee's Summer Love. It tasted like caramel and honey and hops and had made me so nostalgic and loosened my tongue so much I'd almost told my comrades about my former life. That potential mistake was stopped by the consumption of beverage number 2, my beloved Silvercrest Ale. Elmac had, however, topped it off with a shot of Red Dragon whiskey, which he encouraged me to quaff before it evaporated. That slammed into my brain so hard I hadn't been able to speak for the next 20 minutes and could only grin like an imbecile. Next was Kraken Ink Porter that Elmac assured me had been recovered at great expense and loss of life from the fabled sunken city of Shirix. The bottle had been encrusted with barnacles. The opaque black liquid inside had tasted like rusty steel and smoked figs, and the bubbles passed right through my stomach lining and left my blood fizzing. The last pint was Odin Spit, a lager that Elmac claimed only the bravest dwarven warriors could safely consume, although if true, one wonders why the heck he served it to me. I merrily toasted to his health and fiscal good fortune, and I couldn't tell you what it had tasted like, other than the bite of pure grain alcohol, because my taste buds, along with every other cell in my body, were inebriated to the point of total shutdown. I had a faint recollection of jumping onto the table and dancing, singing that horrible dwarven limerick. I hadn't known I could speak dwarven. Then after a perfect backflip dismount, but a slightly less than perfect landing, Elmac and Pendrick had carried my limp, giggling self here. I tried to rise, but glass shards ground inside my skull. Ow. Apparently, spiritual regeneration did not fully compensate for one's dalliances with alcohol. Probably as it should be. Okay. What else we got? We got other characters to visit here. We still haven't hit Pendrick on the show yet. We did a little bit of him earlier, but not with spectators. We still need to do the Game Master of Thera, William Savage, Lordrin Hiltmeyer, and Sister Rada Borovkova.
Sister Rada Borevkova. Sister Rada Borevkova.
What do you think, Eric? Got another scene for me? I mean, there's delay. There wouldn't be a delay if we were on Google Hangouts. Hiltmeyer. Okay. Where do we find him? Chapter 16 from the top. All right. Here goes. Oh, everyone loves shopping. Chapter 16. I stood at the intersection of River Street and Silver Avenue. Crowds still surged up the thoroughfare. Excuse me. The people were headed toward what could be High Hills Central Market. From the tops of brightly colored tents, I could make out in the distance.
Traffic is heavy today, Pendrick told me. The late summer gates are open, and people want melons from the hot lands while they are in season, silks from the land of day and night while there is a selection, and there is always demand, and there is always demand for the...
Is it demand? I'll have to look that one up for UK accent.
And there is always demand for the milk of the far fields poppy.
I nodded, pretending to understand. It was going to take me a while to get my bearings in Thera, which was essentially a crossroad to 1,000 other worlds, each with its own customs, flavors, exotic peoples, and goods. And, I suspected, dangers. Good thing I'd picked a long-lived elf. It could take 100 years to get the hang of this place.
As requested,
Pendrick said, and indicated down Silver Avenue with a nod.
A place for you to shop. A place for you to shop.
Shop. I don't know. Is Pendrick too... I feel like I'm playing him a little too subdued, maybe. Maybe he needs a little more
energy. As requested, a place for you to shop.
Across the broad cobblestoned street were raised sidewalks and storefronts, silversmiths, armorers, tailors, money changers, sword makers, a magic shop, and numerous other establishments that catered to every type of adventurer. It was perfect. I'll need a few things, I said, as my gaze wandered from storefront to storefront, lingering on display cases in the windows with glowing magical rings and gleaming sabers and polished helmets with horsehair plumes.
And I must retrieve some light armor if we're to scout the location of...
Pendrick looked about as if everyone on the street were eavesdropping.
The location we seek.
I'll meet you back in here... I'll meet you back here in, say, an hour?
Done,
Pendrick said. He then leaned closer and whispered,
Do you require an advance? I have funds.
Thanks, I replied. I'll be okay. I plucked at the robe I had liberated from the Temple of the Three Sisters. I just need something practical to fight in. Pendrick stared at me a long moment, perhaps assessing how exactly I had fought Elmac and his club and metal arm with just my bare fists and feet.
An hour, then, Pendrick said. Farewell in your shopping, Hector.
I waved at the knight and watched him march up River Street. Him wanting to change into light armor was understandable. He was lumbering around in a breastplate, greaves, and vambraces that had to tip the scales at 40 extra pounds. I turned back to the shops on Silver Avenue. Where to begin? All right, let me skip a little bit forward. So,
Still having doubts, but my spirits slightly lifted, I crossed the bustling street to a store marked with a sign, Hiltmeyer & Co., Trading Post Extraordinaire. Through the front window, I saw the place was crammed with barrels, crates, saddles, tents, and coils of rope, but only as I stepped through the curtained entrance did I see how jam-packed the place truly was.
Okay, did you just try to send me a private message, Buchamas? Because it's not going to be private, because I have it being displayed on the stream.
The building was only 6 paces across, but extended back 100 feet, ending at a set of barred, iron-bound double doors marked Private. Skylights let in shafts of dusty sunlight, and lanterns here and there dispelled murky shadows. On the floor, in displays, on shelves, on hooks, on walls, even hanging from the rafters, was everything a person seeking adventure in the wilderness, or delving into dungeons or crypts, could ever need. There were used swords, shields and armor, backpacks, cases filled with compasses, sextants, empty vials, maps, torches, lanterns, and tiny silver bells. Although parts of the place were organized, it also looked like an evil sprite had deposited half the inventory in random locations. The rope section caught my eye. 50 varieties of rope hung in coils on the wall, from coarse hemp to modern green and orange striped mountaineering rope to various silken strings.
Excuse me.
Hemp cost a mere copper nib per foot, all the way up to several gold per foot for a spider silk rope that felt like gossamer whispers in my hand. As I focused on a length of the stuff, a game interface window appeared. Spider silk rope. Tier 5 non-magical equipment. Very rare. Description: crafted from the silk of the gigantic black widows of the Wandering Isle. Latrodectus hesperus gargantus. The rope is double helix twisted and knotted for climbing. 8 ounces per 50 feet. Special abilities: only a 1/4 inch thick, this rope at 50-foot extension can hold 600 pounds. Treated to resist abrasion, acid, and fire, and remains pliant to -200 degrees Fahrenheit. Value: 5 gold quins per foot. A quality piece of gear that any thief would die, or kill, to have in their inventory. And very expensive. For a split second, I admit it, I considered opening my inventory and making the rope vanish. But it was just a stray thought. I was not a thief, neither the character class nor an actual shoplifter. For some reason, that verged on psychic premonition. I felt compelled to turn my head. I spotted a sign nailed to the wall that read, "Shoplifting never tolerated." A stick figure had been carved below those words, presumably a would-be shoplifter, with both hands hacked off and spurting blood. In case this wasn't deterrent enough, nailed to the sign under this were 3 actual severed hands.
All right, we need to get to. We're running out of time here. We need to get to him. Where is he? Where is he? Okay.
There was a bell on the counter with a sign. Ring for service. I tapped the thing, and a sweet tone pinged in the air. The gnome on the counter cleared his throat.
"I am right here, Master Elf. No need to bang away at the bell."
I almost jumped at the now moving little Christmas gnome with the helium squeaky voice. They'd been everywhere in the store this whole time, watching me, and I hadn't had a clue. In my peripheral vision, I imagined there were dozens of the little guys with tiny crossbows pointed at my back, and even a few hanging from the rafters with hand-severing cleavers at the ready.
Was that high enough, by the way?
I kept my poker face, though, and said, "Master Gnome, how much for all this?" The gnome's smile widened as he ticked off on his fingers, counting.
2,000 silver squares,"
he announced. steepling his plump little fingers.
With the appropriate cash payment discount already applied.
I can try higher if you want. I took a step back, almost physically assaulted by his ridiculous markup. I held up the troll-skin boots. This is worth 500. I flapped the package of underwear at his face. 50 more for the briefs.
Surely not, Master Elf.
His tone was sickly sweet and condescending, like an adult speaking to a naughty child. Okay.
Surely not, Master Elf. Surely not, Master Elf.
No, here we go.
Surely not, Master Elf.
Is that too high? I went on like that, giving him the exact price for each item. A bit of the gnome's smile faded, and his sparkling eyes dulled. When I finished, he crossed his chubby arms.
Well now, for a fellow tradesman in the mercantile craft, I suppose I could let the lot go as low as 1,000 silver squares.
I set a hand over my chest as if I had been stabbed. That gives you a 20% markup. Wouldn't 10% be a fair compromise? More than fair, considering the lowered organizational overhead within your fine establishment. In other words, I was calling him a cheat and accusing him of keeping a sloppy shop. Okay, so was I hitting too high there, or did you like it? Did you like it that high? How exactly I was calculating profit percentages in a flash, I didn't know. Maybe it all tied into my gypsy elf starting racial bargaining skill. Being able to read the true value of these items in the game interface was also a devastating advantage. The last of the gnome's smile collapsed into a teeth-grinding grimace, but then he recovered and his smile sprang back.
This is a cash transaction, I assume?
He asked. Oh. I held up one finger as I brought up my inventory window. Trade.
Well,
he said, scratching his head.
Let's see what you have.
I was careful to pull items from my inventory below the edge of the counter so he wouldn't see them materialize out of thin air. I set my old chain shirt, Gladius, and Morgan's shield on the counter. With each, the gnome looked more and more amused. There was no way this free trial starting gear would cover the cost of what I wanted. I considered pulling out the silver signet ring or, better yet, the ritual sacrifice glove. The glove's potential 500,000 gold piece... Okay, blah, 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 blah. You guys are getting bored at me talking about items in his inventory. He said, and cupped his pointy chin. He pulled out a little red book, embossed with a gold leaf title. Ugly Hawk's Potion and Common Poison Identification Guide. Abridged Field Version 2.1. He gave me a surprisingly kingly bow for one so small.
I am Lordrin Hiltmeyer of the Families Incorporated of Hiltmeyer, Fetch, and Lowlander, and it has been an absolute pleasure doing business with you.
Okay. All right, so that's the gnome. Let's move on.
Absolute pleasure doing business with you.
All right. So we still got Duke of Pinicus, Rada Borovkova, William Savage, and the Game Master to impressed or horrified. I really wish I'd gotten him on the video. It'd be much easier.
This is my light armor. I see you are now appropriately attired for our morning exploration. Very good. I dare say you appear every bit as capable as I've seen you to be.
That's Pendrick.
I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that guy.
Ha ha! Quite. Come, the southern gate. We call it the Grey Gate. It's this way.
All right. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and search real quick for Borovkova. Borovkova. I have not gotten to read the whole book yet. I'm dying to. I'm so swamped right now, guys. I'm behind in reading, and I have this festival that I'm doing, so. Well, I was thinking, Eric, that we need to wrap up here pretty soon. So we need to investigate the other characters that we haven't gotten to yet, like Rada Borovkova, Duke Opinicus, and William Savage, and the Game Master. So I'm just gonna start with her. We got it. Ancient, okay. The vault door opened. With a wave and a disingenuous smile, the Duke dismissed us from his high-security audience chamber. Myself, Pendrick, and a muttering Elmac were led out by Colonel Delacroix, who paused as one of the bald priestesses at the council table rose to join us. She caught the crook of my elbow.
I am Sister Rada Borovkova, she said, guardian of the secret wisdoms at the Temple of the Three Sisters. I will find your friend.
She was ancient. Human. Her eyes were solid white. Couldn't weigh more than 70 pounds. Her grip, however, was iron. It's a great pleasure to meet you. I meant it, too. I instantly liked this Rada. She radiated. I don't know how to describe it. Comfort was the closest thing. Sorry, I'm skipping around just for time's sake, because we're getting to almost 2 hours, and I want to be done after 2 hours.
Sir Ragnavold,
she said to Pendrick, her eyes still closed.
I assume you must gather several 100 pounds of arms and armor? If so, please also find a suitable mount for your new associate as well. And Master Elmac, you must gather some bits, bobs, and bottles before we leave.
I'll tell you what I need to gather. I'll tell you what I need to gather.
Elmac took a step closer to her. Pendrick set a restraining hand on his shoulder.
Elmac,
Sister Rada said.
Do you not wish to settle accounts with the Duke after all these years?
That was kind of a weird German-Russian mix.
Do you not wish to settle accounts with the Duke after all these years?
Her blank, blind eyes seemed to somehow track him. Elmac grumbled something even my elven hearing couldn't make out. He kicked the wall.
Fine. I'll meet you at the cathedral gate in 1 hour.
Oh my god! Okay, so I want to do one more line from her.
Perhaps then you have something of your friends, or something they touched. I can use that as the focus for my location spell.
Russian accents are hard, but fun.
Ah, I sense them. A good soul. Mostly honest. Practical joker.
Okay, so that's Sister Rada Rada Borovkova. Game Master, Chapter 11. Okay, so I have a prepackaged voice that I like to use for these types of roles. But I'll also try, but you requested Patrick Stewart for this. So I'm going to try both.
Hello? I asked. A beeswax candle in a wooden base. That had definitely not been there a second ago, now perched on the corner of the console. It sparked, flickered, and lit.
Hello. Hello.
The tiny flame replied in a whisper. As things went, not the most astonishing event of the day. Still, not even close to what I had been expecting. You are...
As requested, the Game Master of Thera,
the flame said.
It is a pleasure to meet you, Hector. You have proved to be the most unconventional hero I have encountered in a dozen ages.
My brain stuttered, but I somehow managed to remember my manners. Pleased to meet you, too. And thanks for saving my life.
It was nothing, the candle said. Save, however, may be an overstatement. I have slowed time here to an infinitesimal crawl while your situation, our situation, is sorted to my satisfaction.
I was going to point out the EULA was a legally binding document, and as far as I was concerned, I now worked for the Game Master, whether he liked it or not. This, however, would be like arguing a parking ticket with a Supreme Court judge. Possible, but infinitely stupid. So I decided to stick with polite patience. I don't want to push my luck, but... I nodded to the teeth extruded from floor and ceiling and the about-to-strangle-me claws of demonic Mr. Null.
Of course.
The teeth retracted. Null transformed back to an amorphous cloud of smoke. I puffed on it, and the vapors drifted to the far side of the room.
Cool,
I said with a huge exhale, tapping my fingers on the edge of the keyboard before me.
But what exactly needs to be sorted to your satisfaction?
Eula, okay.
Before I explain that, I must first inform you that while I am granted complete dominion over Thera, my influence does not fully extend to this control room in high orbit over the planet. I may only keep Null and his kind at bay a while before the flow of time returns to normal.
And then they kill me.
Just so. Are you comfortable with me reading your surface thoughts? The candle asked. Mild telepathic augmentation will speed this up dramatically, and as time is working against you...
Nice that it asked permission. I bet it could have ripped whatever thoughts it wanted right out of my prefrontal cortex. Read away.
All right, now I'm going to try my best Patrick Stewart impression.
Ah, I see you much better, Hector Savage.
The candle brightened, in what I hoped was approval of what it found rattling about in my skull.
Let me explain in colloquial terms. This is a job interview for a position that has not existed until this very moment. There has never been a mechanism for the Game Master to create their own clan, let alone have players in such a clan.
As if I could see into its mind, too, I suddenly understood.
It's like another player sitting in on a game of chess.
Oh, no, that's him. It's like another player sitting in on a game of chess, I said. None of the other clans are going to be happy to see new pieces on the board.
Indeed. A further complication is that as arbiter between all clans, I was designed to be a neutral party in the game.
So what do you think? You want to stick with Patrick Stewart, or do you want to go with my other guy?
Before I explain that, I must first inform you that while I am granted Granted complete dominion over Thera, my influence does not fully extend to this control room in high orbit over the planet. I may only keep Null and his kind at bay a while before the flow of time returns to normal. Before I explain that, I must first inform you that while I am granted complete dominion over Thera, my influence does not fully extend to this control room in high orbit over the planet. I may only keep Null and his kind at bay a while before the flow of time returns to normal.
Okay, gotcha. Patrick Stewart it is. All right, and Duke Opinicus? Here we go. Okay, so this is chapter 23. We were about to read this earlier, but... yeah. My first impulse was to stand by Pendrick, even fight with him if it came to that. We were, however, inside a sealed vault, facing a table of high-level fighters, wizards, and clerics, as well as a dozen guards who might take a dim view of such aggression. Fists and swords weren't getting us out of this jam. That left wits and diplomacy. So, serious trouble. The Duke read a scroll, looked up, and cleared his throat.
Sir Ragnavold, this is not the first time you have been involved in a delicate incident. Can you tell us why you were conducting operations in a clearly prohibited region?
Pendrick squared his shoulders. Your Grace, I claim knightly virtuous conduct in this matter. It was a clear conflict of good versus evil.
One cannot claim plus grand bien.
Bien? Bien? Colonel Delacroix declared with a forced laugh. Okay.
One cannot claim plus grand bien. Bien? When one first breaks a royal edict that jeopardizes the entire duchy.
Duchy? Douchey? Duke Opinicus set a hand on her arm.
Allow Sir Ragnavold to give his account. Allow Sir Ragnavold to give his account.
She cast her gaze to the floor.
My apologies, Your Grace. I do not have your considerable patience for idiocy.
A bit smoother, okay.
Go on,
the Duke ordered Pendrick. Pendrick, looking flushed, possibly hungover, proceeded to tell the Duke and his council a version of our adventure, how we met up with the ghosts of the far-field barbarians, their decade-long cursed battle with the wizards of the Black Hand, and how the evil lurking in the southern ruins was defeated. He left out my part in this drama, Elmac's quest to locate and cleanse his family brewery, and any mentions of the Valkyries who had taken the barbarians to Valhalla. Sorry, I'm looking for more of the Duke. More of the Duke.
I agree. It is imperative to confirm if the Black Hand wizards are indeed gone, or if this is a trick of our enemies. I'm more interested, however, in how Sir Ragnavold inserted himself into a self-contained and unbreakable death curse. You have been wrestling with this mystical conundrum for what? The better part of a decade?
Her head jerked back a fraction of an inch.
Are you suggesting that Pendrick is part of the wider conspiracy? Merely stating facts.
Sir Ragnavold was present at the undead cleanup at the edge of Cathedral Woods. He also destroyed the cultists in Corpse Light Swamp, and now he dismantles the ghosts who we suspected have been part of our enemy's long-range plans. She tapped her lower lip. Many coincidences usually are not coincidences. Sir Ragnavold's character is beyond reproach, Duke Opinicus said. And yet, it seems unlikely one night even your redoubtable captain could single-handedly disassemble the forces arrayed against us, just as they are being brought to bear on High Hill. Perhaps, then, this is their doing? Misdirection? Or could Pendrick be under a spell? I have detected no cognitive enchantments upon him, nor any psi programs running. I see no alternative than but to isolate him while we uncover the truth. He cast a microsecond glance at me and Elmac. And perhaps his acquaintances. The dungeons? House arrest. Under observation. My instincts tell me he is innocent. Yet, until we know for certain, this will be our best course.
Okay, how does he sound? I lowered him a bit, a little smoother. God, I'm having so much fun.
Your command of the high speech is impressive. But, yes, I see you are a wandering elf. That explains it. Well then, Master Elf, please enlighten me. And they did not kill you?
Okay, cool. We got him. And are we good with Galadriel as well? Colonel Delacroix? I think, is that everybody? I think that's everybody. Yeah, that's everybody on the list. Okay, guys. I gotta go hang out with my dad. He's in town from Kentucky. He's only gonna be here for a couple weeks, and I haven't seen him in a couple years, so I'm gonna go hang out with him. And Eric Nylund, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Sound Booth Theater Live and directing me with your characters. I cannot wait to get started on this book. It's so much fun already. Colonel Delacroix's good. So, next week, guys, next Wednesday, what's left? I think next Wednesday is actually going to be an off day. But also, watch out on YouTube. I'll be posting, I'm going to be performing with Scott Brick on Saturday. An audio drama called 1917. It's about World War I. It's at the World War I Museum here in Kansas City. I'm really excited about it. I got like 8 different characters I'm playing. But apparently they're going to be recording the show and putting it on YouTube. Well, I don't know if they're putting it on YouTube. I hope they're putting it on YouTube. But they're recording and filming. Excuse me. So that should be good. I have to practice that tonight. I have a lot of stuff to do tonight. So I'm going to need to get off here. Let me check my schedule one more time. I'm pretty sure that yeah, it looks like I'm supposed to start Hero of Thera next week. I'm probably going to be a little bit late on that, probably starting the 14th or the 15th on it. But then the next week there's no books set. So I have a week kind of off, but it won't be off. It'll just be me catching up with probably Hero of Thera. So next Wednesday, there won't be a Sound Booth Theater Live. Unless maybe I decide to do something silly. Not exactly sure. But for now, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Thank you guys for requesting audiobooks. I'll get those to you. Don't worry about that. Or I can save them for Hero of Thera, if you want. But yeah, thanks, Eric, and Good show. Sorry about not getting him on the chat. I'm sure, or on the hangout. I'm sure that would have been better, but what are you gonna do? When you're done with tech, you're done with tech. I need a gnome. I need a gnome. Anyway, peace out, guys. Show's over. Go away.